Hey there, I'm Kelli Russell.
Hi, Kelly Russell.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Kevin.
We've been together for 18 years, and the last 5 of these years have been a massive journey. We've gone up and down and all around. We've done so much growth, so much healing, so much expansive journeying, and we wanted to share that story with you today. And we hope that you can connect to it, and maybe it might spark some desire to find more peace and ease in your life too. And we have some tools that we've learned that we will share with you.
Yeah.
So it all started about 5 years ago when my best friend was hiking and she broke her back and had to be airlifted off a mountain and didn't require surgery at that time for that broken vertebra, but I watched her through the course of 2 years try to heal herself with every type of healing modality, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, you name it, probably 12 different types of therapies of all different healing. And nothing helped release her pain. And she finally opted for a surgery. And after that surgery healed, pain was still there. And she didn't give up, kept seeking, and eventually was led to this emotional kinesiologist who was able to use muscle testing, which is finding a resonance in the body with truth, and ask the system what is going on. And he asked her body, is it something physical that's going on causing the pain? Is it something with your circuitry? Is it something nutritional? Is it something emotional? And the one that her body said was emotional. And once they got to the bottom of what was causing this emotion to be expressed in the form of back pain, the pain miraculously went away. And I'm talking away.
Disappeared completely.
And to me, I was just astounded, dumbfounded, shocked, surprised. And in my background, I studied psychology, sociology, marriage and family therapy. I've always been studying the mind and how the mind works. And then I got into yoga and meditation and mindfulness. So again, studying body-mind connection. And I had never come across anything like this. So once she was healed in a few sessions, she started changing and she started learning the processes herself. It made such an impact on her life that she wanted to get trained in a similar modality called Psyche. It's psychological kinesiology. And then she asked us if we wanted to be the recipient of some of the things that she was learning. And of course, we always want to learn and grow. And we were like, yes, we'll do it.
Was that before or after you started training?
That was before.
Okay.
So we started getting introduced into some of these processes and started noticing some changes within us. And then our daughter, she was 10 at the time. She started showing some signs where she was picking little blemishes on her face. Like it would be something small, and then she'd pick it and it would get bigger, and then she'd pick it more and it would get bigger. And she would come to us and she goes, I don't know why I'm picking. I don't want to pick. I can't stop. Like she was in a state of distress.
It got to the point where it looked like she had chicken pox.
Yeah, she had
kind of scabs, band-aids, arms, legs, face.
She was wearing band-aids to school in 5th grade, and it got to a point where I counted 7. I think she had 4 on her face and 3, like 1 on the arm and 2 on the legs, and I couldn't figure out how to help her. And so
we even saw an allergist about it, and they said it was not an allergy. Yeah. But they couldn't tell us what it was. They just knew it was not an allergic reaction.
So we decided to take her to the same doctor that helped my friend, and I took her in, and within about 7 minutes of muscle testing, he's asking her, is it physical, is it emotional, all the same things, and it's emotional. And is it something going on at school, something going at home? And he's muscle testing. So it was something going on at home. And he checked, is it something between you and your mom? That was no. Something between you and your dad? That was no. It turns out it was something between he and I.
Yep.
And when they did enough testing to figure out what that was, it was when Kevin and I were arguing, she would feel anxious and she would express that by picking her face. And all that happened within the first 7 minutes. So the doctor looked at me and he said, how about we do the rest of the session together? And he looked at our daughter and said, can you wait in the waiting room? And boy, was I in for it. So we started delving into what was going on, and I didn't even really know there was a problem between us, and I would have called it bickering, like just arguing semantics, like stupid little things.
Well, it was things that we were dismissive of. It was that kind of not
like
petty, but just
we're
not
saying
inconsequential,
the same thing.
Inconsequential stuff that we were just
totally. We're not arguing,
thinking it was surface or issues not as deep as they ended up coming to light that it was.
Yeah.
So we're just like, oh, well, this is because she acts this way or he acts this way. And then
we had
a couple sessions.
Yeah, we had about 3 couple sessions, and we had 3 personal sessions
at least. Yeah.
And we're able to uncover some deeper things. Like mine was about feeling unlovable, and when I was feeling unlovable, I would push you away because I was dangerous.
But my actions and things I was saying were inadvertently triggering these feelings of unlovable in Kelli. And for me, my thing was worthiness or feelings of worthlessness. And this surface stuff that we would be going through together would trigger these much deeper and more, entangled feelings of worthlessness in me and then unlovable in you.
So we started uncovering those, and once they come to light, we can have a real conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
And it started changing our marriage, both the processes we were doing with my friend and then seeing this doctor, and it impacted me and us so much. And by the way, our daughter didn't pick again after those 7 minutes. But
because it wasn't her.
But to our point, like we changed. We changed the way that we communicated after that, and we did the work, so it didn't need to express anymore.
And I think a big part of it was gaining insight and contrast, because we were so in it with our
couldn't see it.
With our communication, with our entanglement, that we it was a forest for the trees issue. We were too close to the problem to be able to objectively look at it.
Yeah. And then at the same time, we kept diving into the experiences offered within Psyche, like doing stuff on our relationship and changing our core beliefs, moving them all towards the positive. And I don't know about you, but I started feeling different.
Oh, absolutely. And you come at it from a standpoint of energy. And so as soon as things shift energetically, it's an instantaneous change.
I started noticing, for me, instead of using sarcasm as my method of humor, I was way more positive and optimistic, and what I would have called a realist, like, I'm just being a realist. It really tended towards the negative, and that started to shift a lot.
Yeah, our programming of safety and self-preservation started changing. I feel like, where it wasn't as much of a, I mean, we started having, I feel like, things of difference of me and you as opposed to us. I feel like there was aspects of that were creeping in, and part of this expansion and part of this growth really delineated for me the us and the me and the you.
What?
As opposed to the conflict that those differences can make. Like, I am me and you are you, and that's completely beautiful. And we started learning how to communicate and diving through the stuff that would otherwise trip us up, and just it became less and less consequential.
The changes that we were observing in ourselves and in our relationship were so massive that I wanted to figure out how I could do this to assist others. I've always been a helper at service. I want to help others evolve and awaken. And I was like, this is amazing. How does everyone not know about this? Why is this something I've never experienced before, seen before, or never have been showed this in any textbook, or it was never around. So I started hunting, and I started looking at different similar healing modalities. And I ended up researching about 36 different modalities, and I really liked 2. One of them was called the emotion code, and one of them was Psyche, and it ended up being that one. So emotion code therapy is a way to identify stuck energy, like a trapped emotion that's blocking you from something, and you can release it very quickly. And you're using muscle testing to talk to the subconscious and say, hey, what's going on in there? And then we figure out what emotion it is, and we ask, do you need to know more about it to release it? And sometimes you do need to bring more to the surface of awareness, and other times your system's like, no, I'm ready to let that go now. And we started using it in our family a lot, probably for a good year and a half. And we would help each other. Like if I would get stuck, you'd help me. And you learned really quickly how to help yourself. You really took off with the muscle testing.
And the perspective thing is kind of funny, because as we started to kind of clear away these layers of stuff that weren't serving us anymore, I started to be able to intuit or see when Kelli might be kind of off, or reverting to old programs, and she was able to see the same thing in me. And so if I was in it or having a bad day or something like that, you were, instead of taking that personally, you were able to look at it more objectively and say, okay, something's going on with him. Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me, and then vice versa. And so I think we were both able to start helping each other hone in on, or kind of tune into those subtleties a little bit more.
I think more important than that is we learned how to do that within ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we learned what it felt like to feel clear. Once I learned what that felt like to not have that emotional baggage, and I started feeling like a lot lighter and a lot freer. I used to have this tightness, this heaviness in my chest, and that would go away, and I never really knew what that felt like until it was gone. And then once it was gone, I could easily notice when stuff was in the way that was causing me to feel anxious or stressed out. And then Kevin really started muscle testing himself. Like, we would go out to a restaurant, or we'd be driving in a car, and he's self-testing using a hand position, and I see him doing it. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's clearing this emotional energy.
Well, and for the same reasons, because I had a different calibration of my own energy, my own internal system, from just stock standard, this is what I'm coming into it with, to... And
you used to get like tightness, like shortness of breath. You couldn't take a deep breath, really shallow. So it would show up like digestionally for you, or with... Yeah,
and each and every one of us has our own very specific blend of dis-ease, or whatever this is. Mine was, I had allergies when I was younger, gastrointestinal, gut stuff, and then the breathing thing, which I didn't realize that I'd been holding my breath effectively for about 30 years. Because that was the state that I was experiencing, so I didn't have any perspective of anything else.
And then once you released it, that went away. And so when you felt stuck around something, that feeling would come back.
To your point, that started to become the signifier, or kind of the system alarm that would start to blink if something was off, because it wasn't that I was feeling new or different things. The things that I had been operating with for so long were no longer there. And so that space then became the new normal. So then after the fact, when things would come up or feel like they were stuck, that difference was much more noticeable.
Yeah. So I decided to get trained in that modality and become certified so I could assist others in that. And then I also congruently went with the Psyche as well. And I did the beginners and the advanced and the master's training for it. And with that one, it's more about making sure that you have the positive beliefs established in your system. So putting all the good in, getting rid of the emotional junk, and then making sure that in its place are left some positive beliefs about yourself and the world, and how we move through the world.
Yeah, I look at it twofold. One is kind of, clearing the deck to give yourself a neutral playing field, so you're not coming into any experience with these kind of baked in programs of trapped emotions, or negative things that get stuck. And then the Psyche was really for me personally, a kind of an optimization tool, where, and it can be anything. You can employ it for pretty much anything in the world, but a lot of it for me was really internal, and making sure my system was dialed to just be able to be much more easeful in being and present.
And then once we open this door, like with the emotion code stuff, you can tap into ancestral energy. And Kevin started having these deeper experiences. And I call you a sensitive, and I mean that in the medium way. As far as really sensitive to energy, it's not, of course, I believe we're all empaths. We all experience one another's feelings. We're in the sea of energy.
Absolutely.
But there's something special about you where...
Oh, I think there's something special about you too.
Thank you. But you were able to tap into ancestral stuff in a different way and experience it. And you're just super intuitive.
It's I don't know, tap in is an interesting thing because I've been through a series of surprising expansions that I wasn't expecting, but I guess I was kind of subtly looking for along the way.
Or maybe they found you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a co-creation collaboration. But yeah, it was just something that popped up where I was doing all this work myself personally, kind of riding on the coattails of all the training that Kelli had been going through, and just applying it for myself. One, because I was feeling better and better, and two, it kind of inadvertently training myself to move more from using muscle testing towards intuition.
True.
So it's moving more from, okay, I kind of feel like this is how it is, let me double check, to just really resonating with that yes inside, as opposed to something that might not resonate as strongly or might resonate as a no. I got ridiculous. I was muscle testing everything from the shirt that I should wear to what shampoo I should use in the shower. Not because I needed to, but because I was curious about my own calibration and my own kind of tuning fork, so to speak. And my own personal stuff I started clearing out by the truckload, and it was truckloads. It was a lot of personal stuff. And then the ancestral thing just kind of popped in. Wasn't expecting it, but it was that same trigger, that same, from my own personal experience, that's those same feelings. I felt something was off, and I checked in and kind of going through the what had become standard process of questioning or standard process of deduction, and nothing was really coming up as yes, that's it, until Kelli, I think you suggested, like, what if it's ancestral? And even just as she said that the very first time, it felt like, yes, that's what it is. And then that took me on an entire 3-week journey of morning and night. Just it was like both sides of my lineage, any kind of disruptive or unsettled energy that was not cleared in their lifetimes was just lined up, queued up, and ready to go for whatever reason. Maybe it was a resonance that I was putting off because I was sensitive to things or more open. But they were very, very ready to dive into this ride that I guess I had opened up, type of thing.
It's almost like they're like, oh, you're a man that can clear energy from this field of maybe non-bodied consciousness. Yeah. Well, I'm in line. And I remember you were working and you're doing user interface, user experience, graphic design, you're creating websites and apps. And I just remember you working and you're like, I don't have time for this. I need to do my work. And you're trying to set up like office hours for the spiritual stuff to be going on. And they weren't listening.
Well, yeah. Space-time outside of our three-dimensional experiences is... So there's no,
And then I had this this friend that had some sessions with a spiritual healer, I would call her. She works with a biofield. And I wanted to go try it because I'm always wanting to learn and grow. And I went and had a session with this person, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation we had. It was almost like she could perceive these questions that I'd had for a long time, and we got to talk about it. And I had such a good experience. I went to Kevin and I said, I think this person might be able to assist you. And I think this person might be able to be maybe a guide for you that can help you with some of these deeper things that I know nothing about. And so why don't you go try a session with her? And additionally, we had a cranial sacral therapist with someone where it's like priming the system, getting your nervous system really relaxed and really at ease, getting the fluid flowing in the optimized way. So that might have helped as well. You had that first, and then you went to this biofield harmonics session and had a life-altering experience.
Yeah. Going into it, I think I got to a point of, what was it?
You were ready. You were just like, something exciting is going to happen. I'm ready for it. My system is ready. What's it going to be? Like, you definitely were like excited. It was almost like a prize fighter. You were getting ready to go out there. You're like, I'm ready.
That's kind of what I was trying to find the words for.
Yeah.
It was like I had just made a decision to eat better and exercise, and I signed up for the meal plan.
That's true.
I signed up for the personal trainer. I was energetically and internally, I was ready to go. So I was front loading everything. I'm like, I don't care what it is, I'm going to do it. Cranial sacral, Reiki. There was things that I tried that didn't work for me, that didn't resonate.
You always eat super healthy, so your body was ready. And
and that's a whole other
we'll
aspect.
Talk about that another time.
So I go and I have the session, and long story short, even though it's too late for that, I got enlightened. Enlightenment found me, connected to my higher consciousness. Whatever way that you interpret the energy that is greater than us is what I connected to. It is single-handedly the most profound, expansive, enlightening, defining probably experience of my life, maybe second only to getting married. But it was it was a connection to the love and the core energy that every single one of us has, more strongly than anything I'd ever experienced. And it was like leveling up. It was like leveling up in a video game, and you get every gear upgrade possible as you're leveling up. The actual experience was my experience. It was very personally cultivated. So I started seeing in my mind's eye scenes that were very resonant to me. So surfing, being in the ocean, Pacific Northwest and redwood forests, and then just hit with this most amazingly, brilliantly blinding white light that I had to squint because it was so bright. And one thing I hadn't mentioned was I had a blackout mask and weighted eye shade on at the time. So even behind all that, it was like accidentally looking at the sun. It was so bright. And then that's what I felt flood my entire system. And it started at my heart and bloomed throughout my entire torso, all the way down to my feet, fingers, toes, and then kind of ended in like shunk, kind of synced up in my head. I was either laugh crying or cry laughing the whole time. I think it was probably because my system didn't have the capacity to hold in everything that I was experiencing. And then the voice in my head changed a little bit. So I'm not sure about all of you, but we've had this conversation where if you're thinking something, you kind of think it in your voice. And so it was my voice, but it was like if somebody had just modulated it or tweaked it a degree or two. And what I heard was, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you made it. We're going to have so much fun together." Which made me just go into a whole other round of cry laughing, because it was just like, I already knew that, but then hearing that was like meeting my long lost twin for the first time, it felt more centered and more like a home than any house I'd ever lived in.
And this healer, after the session, she gives you impressions about what came up for her when the healing session was going on.
Yeah.
And then you get to discuss and assimilate what happened.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of a debriefing after the fact. Yeah. And she was very curious about my experience, and it was a no-touch energy session, and I don't know what happened because I had the blackout mask So she was very curious as to what I had experienced, because she saw physically what I was laying on a table, and I was laughing, crying, and kind of shaking, because that was the expression. So I communicated to her what I had experienced, and then she communicated to me information that she had gotten during the session. And one of the bits of information was that I don't know if here to, but now I have I'm going to create, or the message was I was going to create a new human design.
And Kevin, in his work, does design work. He moves people through a process from start to finish, like within a website. Like, how do you guide somebody through the site in a way that makes sense to a desired outcome?
So professionally, the last 20 years has been digital design. So anything with an interface is something that I've designed. Systems, software, websites, applications, really that human-computer interaction layer. So it's there's creativity to it, but there's also strategy as well. And so you need to.
So it was interesting that she said that.
You need to take these these complex either
systems, components,
project specs or business plans, and translate them into something that's easy to use. And so in retrospect, it was kind of like I potentially have been training for this my whole life.
And then you came home, and I watched this man write a book in 2.5 weeks, and it was like receiving a download in a state of joy. There was no writer's block. It was just like, oh my gosh, I have so many things that I need to get down. I saw you writing on the laptop, and then I saw you typing on your cell phone. And you were never a person that took baths, but she had recommended just to help ground you, maybe go take an Epsom salt bath. So you took your cell phone in the bath, and you were typing your book in the bath for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And this is what I observed for the next 2.5 weeks, is like all day, but it was in a state of inspiration. It was in a state of excited joy. There was never a beat where you're like, oh man, I don't know what's coming next. It was almost like, I can't get it down fast enough.
That's absolutely what it was.
It was crazy to observe. It was so inspiring, and I was awestruck. Like, what's going on? This is amazing. And then in 2.5 weeks, I read it, and it was awesome. I was like, I can't believe this. And it was an answer to a lot of my questions, because I had all these tools that I'd gained along my years, and psychology and meditating and yoga thought and all these inspiring thinking patterns, and also a little bit dipping into quantum physics and how to understand that as a layperson, at least for me. And your book was a layout of all of those things. It guides a person through the process to meet your higher self.
Or just live a more fulfilled life, which is to me the byproduct.
I mean, I don't quite have that experience, but I think these tools in there are very much how to observe, how to get into an observer state of mind. What is that? What does it look like? How do you get there? And then when you're observing what's going on, you're moving into acceptance, and in order to accept something, you have to release all resistance to it.
Yeah, the resistance to contrast is
so you're
kind of a
talking
theme.
About how do we do that? And then finally moving into some radical shifts so that you can enter this state where you have ease in your life, where you enjoy your life, where you're no longer blaming outside circumstances or other people for your own fulfillment or happiness. You have it all within you.
And it really reconciled the experience of connection, and then there were a couple of almost like an engine that wasn't quite turning over. There were a couple of experiences of reconnection after the fact that just helped to reinforce and really solidify that new relationship. But the other thing that it did was really reconcile a lifetime of kind of background seeking, I guess. The question that's followed me for a long time is yes and this was really the catalyst that laid everything out in my mind in a way that resonated and made sense, from someone who was raised in religion, wasn't quite finding fulfillment or even really enjoyment with the experience, looking to Eastern religions, looking to the Bhagavad Gita and Taoism, Lao Tzu, different philosophers, looking at Western and Eastern philosophy, having an interest in science and wanting, just a curiosity there. And it all really coalesced. And sometimes it was challenging because I couldn't keep up with what I was.
And it's really like a handbook. It's like a process book on how to get from wherever you're starting to just being more peaceful and easeful.
And it's funny, I didn't even realize this was something that I was seeking. I was always open and seeking, thought, contrast. Let's have a conversation. What do you think? So it's kind of an inadvertent stumble upon. But the first thing I thought afterwards was, if I did this, anybody can do this. The funny part is that in the last few weeks, we've been listening to different podcasts and different material that's out right now, kind of in the midst of the COVID 2020.
A lot of philosophies and healers.
Different ideas are coming out.
Kevin and I have taken this in two different directions. And both of us, I think, have the same goal. Like, I'm using these tools of emotion code and psyche to have sessions with people and to help them clear the emotional and energy impacts that are holding them back from their goals, and then ensure that they have those positive beliefs in their place. I've been in private practice doing that for a few years now. And then watching you create this dynamic tool or handbook to walk people through how to shift mindset, how to relate to yourself, which will help you relate to anyone in your life, how to have radical acceptance and radical empathy and radical balance, and how to prime your system. And now thinking about it and hearing you talk, it's like that was the answer to my prayers. I was talking to my friends. I have this meditation group that I would go to once a month and sometimes lead. And I was like, if there was only this tool that can help people evolve and awaken quicker, if you don't have to go through all these struggles and trials and strife. And a lot of what I love about workshops is you have your guide who has taken the time to go through it and learn it and gather all the resources and the information and the research and distill it down. So this is really what this was about. It's really an answer to my prayer and assisting others. Yeah. So I'll just say I manifested it.
There you go. I like it. 100%.
But we just wanted to introduce ourselves and let you know about our story, and maybe something that we said sparked some interest in you. And we'll both be here for you if we can help support you in any way. If you have questions, if you want to respond, if you want to reach out, we'll have the way to do so listed somewhere in this post. But we're excited for you, and that you listen to this means that you're on some type of seeking journey as well, some type of journey of growth and expansion. And we're so happy you're here.
Absolutely. And excited because there's so much happening right now, and it's all just getting started.
Yeah.